Welcome to Patriots the Core. I'm Thad Forrester. This podcast exists because of my little brother, Mark Forrester. He was angered by the attacks on 9/11, so he joined the military to help rid the world of terrorists. On September 29, 2010, he was killed on his first deployment. From his death notification to the dignified transfer ceremony, his viewing, funeral, and subsequent memorials, I was amazed at the new world of warriors we met. These patriots have become close to our family and been huge supports. They stood out because of their willingness to voluntarily fight evil. They believed in freedom. Because of their actions, I started this podcast to interview great Americans who serve their country and communities. Thank you for tuning in. As we record, we've witnessed the assassination, the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. You probably have some strong feelings on that. I know I do. Is there anything what's gone through your head this week since that?
I remember just sitting here at the computer. I think I was on Facebook, and then something came across that said Charlie had been shot, and I was thinking, there's no way, there's no way that he could have been shot. And I texted Kenny and was like, oh my God, Charlie Kirk has been shot, and he came from wherever he was hiding downstairs in the man cave or the barn, I don't know. And we just prayed. We just prayed so hard that he would be okay. And then it was, really pretty fairly quickly after that, that we found out that he didn't make it. No, we were just destroyed because Charlie was such a voice for the young people, and I loved watching his reels, and he was so kind to everybody, even people who came up to his mic with the intent of getting a gotcha, Charlie, or proving him wrong, or just and ending up being just mean, saying, you're ugly, or you're this, or you're that. And he still treated them with grace and respect. Yes, he, maybe cut a few people off, but that was just after he gave them the chance, and then they were just getting a little too crazy. But um, it just it hurts even now. I don't know how I can't put the two terms together, Charlie Kirk and assassination. They just don't go together for me, and it's really hard to wrap my head around it. How someone could be so hateful and so unwilling to just let someone have their opinion. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to listen. You didn't have to go. You don't have to be there. If you don't like it, don't watch them. That's it. There are people, I don't like Colbert. I guess what? I don't watch him. I haven't, tried to put a hit out on him. It's like that's what grown-ups do, and that's what we need to teach the younger kids, that you need to be able to disagree in a way that you don't turn to that kind of thing. You have to
Yeah.
let people talk.
Well, the
So,
I'm sure he's had many death threats. I'm sure he's had people threaten to whoop his butt in person. He's had things thrown at him, food dumped on him, drinks
sure.
dumped on him. I mean, he's had all that over the years, and he just keeps on, keeps going, and it seems like he always just has minimal security.
Yep.
Man, I respected the crap out of that guy. I wish I was as
Yeah.
eloquent as him and knowledgeable, and remembered facts like he could.
So I mean, it wasn't just religious, it was political facts, it was historical facts. I mean, and he could pull it up like that and just quote things. And I'm sitting there going, I've never even heard of that before. This man was brilliant, and his
Hmm.
whole forum was brilliantly established. Get on college campuses, talk to people, give them a voice, a chance to disagree. I don't know. But I think his wife was spot on that his voice will not be silenced now. It's now, instead of one Charlie Kirk, there will be hundreds of Charlie Kirks. And I think she's right.
Yeah, I do too. One thing that stood out to me, Lori, is his everybody talks about his wife and his children, and they we got to think about them absolutely. But I always
Hmm.
think, well, very few people mention his parents, and does he have siblings? And it sounds like I watched the special last night, and I've looked online. I don't know that he had any siblings, but you've got parents too who that's their baby boy, and he's gone,
Yeah.
and they're hurting, they are hurting, and we haven't heard, I haven't heard anything from them, but maybe they're out there. But when people talk about praying for his wife and kids, don't forget he's got parents that have known him for longer.
Absolutely. And and really, I guess shame on me for not even, I mean, I thought about it before, when I talk about his family, I don't only mean when
Mm-hmm.
that the wife and kids, but because you and I know what it's like to be one of the others, the what sometimes are considered the extended family. I know that after he was killed, they one of the commentators or something were saying that his parents were really quiet. Nobody really knew a lot about them. He didn't really talk about them too much, I guess, and they weren't in the public eye. But yeah, they need lots of prayers and support too.
Yeah, certainly.
And if he had siblings, I don't know. It seemed like his private life was his private life. And I noticed like even his photos of his little kids, they're never facing the camera. And there was just
Hmm.
that one little, hey, these are my kids, but I'm not going to show you their faces. And
That's smart. Yeah. When I saw the picture or the video of JD Vance and the guys carrying his casket there, I think when they landed in Phoenix, maybe it was in Utah, wherever that was, putting the casket on the plane or taking it off. I, because the other guys were in uniform, except I think it was Vance and the other guy looked like Cliff Sims. I'm not sure who it was, but I just thought I saw Mark there. I saw his dignified arrival or his dignified transfer. I saw the arrival when my brother escorted him from Dover to our hometown and got him off the plane at our airport. Did you have any of those thoughts about John when you saw that image or picture of Charlie?
I really didn't. We weren't invited to any dignified transfer for John. So I never saw that part of his journey. Really, the whole thing was I was just still in disbelief that this was actually happening, that I was actually seeing what they were showing on, that it happened. So yeah, I didn't make that connection. I didn't have that
Okay.
previous memory of John being transported.
Do you know, you said you weren't invited. Was it a matter of distance or does it timing or do you know why y'all weren't?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if John's widow went. I'm not even sure she went. I know my mom, my parents didn't go. I know for sure if my parents had been invited to go, at the very least, my dad would have gone, but I think mom probably would have gone too. I don't know. Maybe just because it was, 2002 and they just didn't do things that way back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Maybe so. They hadn't developed or refined the process or something. Hmm.
Right. And I
Yeah.
still, and we might get into this later, but I do believe too, though, that especially back in 2002, that had some family members been allowed to go there, I don't know that the siblings would have been. And I just feel like, because back then, we didn't have that, the Survivor Advocacy Council. It's so hard to say. Um,
The
uh,
sack. Yeah.
yeah, the SAC, and I'm sorry, I laugh every time that I say that, but we didn't have that to stick up for siblings, and back then siblings were forgotten. So I'm not even positive that we would have gotten the invitation, even if that was something that family members could do.
Man. Yeah, maybe we will talk more about that because that's a topic that I think most people don't think about unless you've been
Yeah,
in and you've definitely you and other people I know have been through that at a much deeper level than me. I know mine is different. Mark wasn't married, didn't have kids, so it was cleaner, I guess I should say, or it was just it wasn't as complicated maybe is the
right.
word or something.
And I feel like there's like a taboo, or it's really difficult for me or any sibling, I feel like, to speak up and say, what about me? Because other people looking in would say, oh, she just wants attention. He just wants to be recognized. No, we just want to be remembered. There's a difference. And so, but it's really hard to speak up because you don't want to have people feel like, well, she's just looking for the spotlight. I speak up, have spoken up because I don't want another sibling who comes after me to feel the same way that I have, the same way that my sister and brother have, kind of feeling left out. So, but it's hard. It's really hard to be able to stand up and say, what about us?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that in your time in the Air Force Survivor Advocacy Council, that y'all made some headway in that regard?
I think we're because you were the first group. I think we kind of springboarded off of you guys. You guys got some really good things started. I think you did the if there's any kind of official celebration or anything like that, that the siblings are never to be uninvited. That was a big thing. That I was on a Facebook page for Gold Star siblings, and that was a very big complaint that there were times when they weren't invited, they were either forgotten, or the spouse, if there was one, maybe there was some friction and said, I don't want him or her
Yeah.
there. And it's like, if it's an official Air Force thing now, thankfully the siblings don't get, sidelined just because there might be some kind of rift in the family. I mean, it's that's the right thing to do, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I knew John for 36 years. His spouse knew him for 12. So it's like, and she was never ever acted that way. It was always, we were all invited for anything, and she never tried to stop anything. So I'm thankful for that. But
Yeah.
it's hard.
And Lori, there's a new, I don't know if you've heard of this, the Gold Star Advisory Council has just been started, and it's something under the Department of Defense or the Department of War. So this is a Pete Hegseth thing, apparently. So I'm on this new council,
Oh,
and
nice.
I think there's about 12 of us, all branches of the military represented. So our
Hmm.
first meeting is in DC on September 29th, which happens to be the 15th anniversary of Mark's death in
Oh,
Afghanistan.
I just got chills.
So I'm looking forward to being part of that. Yeah, and so we will be meeting with the Secretary of War. So some of those topics that you and I discussed while we were on that the Air Force Survivor Advocacy Council, it will still be a continuation of some of that, I'm sure.
Hmm.
And if you feel free to share any other, suggestions or, things that might be worth, sharing with the group when we go
Right.
up there.
Yeah, I'll have to think about it. One thing I was surprised about when that you were actually specifically notified, you got the knock at the door,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wow, like I think it was because Mark requested it, or did they?
Mm-hmm.
How did? Okay.
Yeah, he had requested simultaneous notification. Now, I don't know if that's like a box you check. I
Mm-hmm.
guess it is. I remember Mark telling me that he did that or was going to do that sometime
Right.
before he deployed. Because Mark and I lived together as adults, and so
Right.
we were close that way. And so, I mean, I appreciated him doing that. And so, yeah, I guess that was a little unique for me as a sibling to get that
Yeah, I was
notification.
definitely impressed and probably a little jealous because the way I found out was not fun. I'm glad you were able to. I mean, it's not no none of part not part- not one part of it is fun, but it's you got that dignified notification, and
Yeah,
I'm happy.
yeah,
I'm glad that you did.
yeah. Thanks. Well, how did you find out? I mean, you talk about it. I'm gonna hold your book up here. So first, there, I have a link in there. So you got a phone call. I think it was from your mom, wasn't it? A frantic call, and you had to hop in the car and drive over to their house. Is that what it was?
No, it was actually my father, my stepfather. Um, and I, to back then I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so that I could go to work at UPS down the street for 3 o'clock and work till 7, come home, take a shower, get my daughter on the bus, then go to my full-time job, you know, a half a mile away or half an hour away, and come back. So I was always tired. And all my family, all my friends knew, do not call me after 9 o'clock, and probably not even before that. And so the phone rang, and I think it was around 10, a little bit after 10. And Nick was just, poor Nick, he didn't know what to do. My mom's in the background screaming, and it never even occurred to me that it had anything to do with John. And all I kept asking was, what are you doing to her? Like, what is going on? Why, and all he could say was, you need to get over here right now. You just need to get over here right now. And I was I had been asleep. I'm like, what is going on? And he just said, it's your brother. And I just said, fuck, and hung up the phone and had to get my daughter up and drive across town. By the time I got to the house, there were the two men in dark suits or dark uniforms. I don't even know. Um, were getting in the vehicle. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Because all the way there, I was praying, please just let him be injured. Please just let him be injured. I walked in the back door and mom just fell in my arms and said, my Johnny's gone. And and that was it. That's how it happened. And then it fell to me to tell Tammy and Kevin because mom couldn't do it. The Air Force
Yeah.
wasn't going to do it. And yeah, and I had no training for that. So, I mean, I know what they did and how they took it when I was on the phone, but the rest of their processing that information is, private for them. But and it's hard.
And
That's how I
you,
found out.
so your mom had two men. Two, I'm guessing they were from John's unit. They were from the 24th, or were they
No,
local Air Force
yes.
people?
They
Oh,
weren't even I think they were guard.
oh man.
I want to say
Okay.
they were guard. Yeah, they were tasked with stopping in, and then the same thing when my dad got notified, it wasn't anyone from the unit.
Oh,
It was just somebody the local, and they couldn't find him. They
they
couldn't
couldn't
find
find
his
his house.
So he found out before they got there. By it was dumb. Then we were told by the Air Force, and then his widow called, both of them, they said, do not call your dad. We will take care of it. And so we didn't. And I was torn. I'm like, how do we know if he's been told? Like, how do we know? So
Yeah.
I talked to apparently then my brother finally figured that he would, okay, try to find out, in a roundabout way. So he called our stepmother's daughter, one of their daughters, and asked Mary, like, have they said anything about John? And so she knew. So then she told Dad and Tess. So that's how Dad found out, was through Tess's daughter.
Was it all late at night, this same
Mm-hmm.
night? Okay, so it was getting
Mm-hmm.
pretty late then.
Oh yeah, probably by the time Dad got a visit, it was maybe midnight. I'm not positive. He's in Michigan. Yeah, so by the time they got there, he already knew, and then he was asking, kind of got mad at me, like, why didn't you call me? And I'm like, they told me not to. Like, they're trained for this. I'm not trained for this.
Yeah.
And so there was a rift between us because I think there was a while there that he was pissed at me because I didn't call him. And well, I was told not to, so I didn't. Um,
Do you think it would have helped? Would it have benefited your mom or you if the Air Force had have had someone, I guess, to either someone who knew John, like the Special Tactics does now, or if they'd had someone trained there to help with grief or something like that? Would that have benefited, do you think?
yeah, I want to say that the two gentlemen who came, and they, God bless them. I don't know if, I think at least one of them did have some kind of training, um, but probably never thought he would need it. And maybe both of them, I'm not sure. But my mom went to the local church. I mean, she was went to a Catholic church there, and it wasn't until after they left that I don't know who called the priest, and he wasn't even the priest from her church because I don't know, they were elderly and they didn't really, so they got a priest from a church across town, and he came and was in the living room with her, but it wasn't immediately. She had no, once they left, if I hadn't been there, it would have been her and Nick. Like nobody else was there. So yeah, I do believe that, if she had had somebody, especially someone who knew him, and being able to just, I don't know, comfort her in a way that someone who knew him could, and have that priest there when they showed up, so that she
Hmm.
had that type of support also, because she's very, religious, and
Yeah.
that I think that would have helped to have it immediately there. But That's not what happened.
So did you stay there that whole night?
You
And were
know,
y'all
this
awake
is
the whole time?
this is so bizarre. Like I think back on it now and I'm like, what was going through my mind? I'm thinking, okay, this is a school night and Rachel is, you know, she's got to go to school tomorrow. No, she can't. Well, no, she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. And well, she's really tired. I woke her up in the middle of the night. So I was there with mom for some few hours. And then I said, I have to go home. I have to bring Rachel home. She needs to sleep. And so we did. We left. I think that, or there's a family friend of ours, Carolyn, came. So I didn't leave her alone. But, and looking back, I just can't figure out why. It was just a snap decision. I have to leave. I have to go. Got to take Rachel. She has to sleep. And I don't know why.
Did she go to school?
She did not.
Did you go to
No,
work?
no. I had to call both jobs. I had to call, I think my mom called her job. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I left. It was just something I felt like I couldn't breathe. I had to get Rachel out of there and I had to get out of there myself.
Well, what a unique situation that,
Mm.
oh gosh, there's just no, you don't know how you're going to act. And then I guess maybe mom kicked in and you're like, okay, back to my daughter now, I guess. I don't know. Huh.
I don't know. I mean, and people came, my friend Lisa showed up out of the blue and when she found out and my ex-husband came like in at midnight in the middle of the night, he showed up and he walked through the back door and I fell into his arms, you know, like it was a community coming together around us.
Yeah.
So, and I was actually surprised that Jim came through, you know, he came over, but you know, he probably more so came over for Rachel, but we still had a good, you know, fairly good relationship too. So it was nice. And maybe that's why I felt okay to leave. I mean, he didn't stay to be there with my mom, but um, friends did. And maybe that
Wow.
was the space. She was fine or not fine, but she had people there and needed to go.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible. Your ex-husband showed up, just came.
Yeah,
Oh man,
he was a good man.
good. All right. Well, there's the good heavy stuff to start out with.
Yeah.
So is there going to be a movie? Is there going to be a Dadgum movie? Is Ron Howard doing it, or maybe there's two movies? What can you tell
No,
us?
there's only one movie. Right now, the working title is Alone at Dawn. And I think in the next week or so, they're going to have the official announcement from the production company. So the only thing, and I really don't know a lot about it.
Okay.
Do know that Ron Howard is directing it. I know the two main characters, John and another character, but not Slavinsky. It's a female character, but they haven't announced it yet, so I'm not going to announce it yet or say it. But I want to say I heard that they're supposed to start filming next month or November, December, one of those pretty soon in the fall,
Okay.
winter. Yeah.
Long time in the making. This needs to be done. Please, I hope this is it finally.
I feel like it's a good pairing because they had a different director and I can never remember his name who moved on for something else, a different project. I just feel like Ron Howard is going to do John right. I mean, it's going to be called Alone at Dawn. The focus of the movie will be combat control and John. And I don't know how they'll handle the seal crap, but um, my I'm concerned that they portray John correctly. I'm
Hmm.
thankful that Dan Schilling, my co-author, is part of the movie. He's there for, you know, to make sure that that combat control is
Okay.
presented correctly and that
Good.
John's actions are presented correctly. I do fear, and I've been told not to feel fearful, but I do, part of me fears that, you know, there will be something in the movie that makes the seals look bigger and better than they were. But I can't focus on that. I need to focus on John.
Well, is there a point of is Dan the go-between or is Valerie the point of contact for the family or is there
I don't even
family
know
contact
if
at all?
I know I think when they were first talking about a movie, and they had the production company, Ron West, and I know he met with Valerie, but I don't know if she's involved now, because that was,
Okay.
2019, 2020. I don't know if she's involved now. I
Okay.
know that I believe that Dan brought Ron Howard and the scriptwriter to Florida at least once, but I don't know if he met with her, or I'm
Well,
pretty in the dark about the movie, which is probably a good thing.
I guess I remember some guys telling us they were going to do one years ago, and I was like, okay, I got to make sure. Got to make sure this is right, but that didn't happen. But they have the
Yeah.
Bible, I guess, with Alone at Dawn. Do you think? I mean, they've got your book, and especially if they wanted to do any flashbacks or something, do you think they're going to use your book at all, or do you have any clue?
I talked to our agent about that. I sent him the book, and I just said, hey, if they want to know the type of person, even if they don't do flashbacks, but if they just want to know the type of person truly that he is, if you want to be able to portray him the way he really was, that the book, I feel like, gives a pretty good 30,000 feet whatever view of John, and how he was consistently throughout his life. Even some of his mannerisms, well, maybe not mannerisms. I definitely talked about his laugh, but you'd kind of have to hear that to be able to replicate it.
Think it seems like you call it a cackle in the book. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, it was kind of like a cat when he really thought something was funny. It was, and there was at least one of his combat control buddies that said the same thing. He's like, his laugh, you know what I'm talking about. So it wasn't just me who noticed it, it was just something about him. Something he did.
Would you describe writing this book? Well, okay, so this is the book. First, there is the one you originally wanted to write. You ended
Hmm.
up writing Alone at Dawn with Dan Schilling. Dan's been on the podcast. I'll have a link to that interview. He's been on twice, but once for Alone at Dawn. So this one, you finally wrote it and published it 23
Three.
years
Yeah.
later. Would you describe that process as therapeutic, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think so for sure. And it was something that I kind of started. I started and stopped, started and stopped. It wasn't like I started it fairly early on after John died. And I didn't know what I was doing. And then it got really emotional for me. So it went on the back shelf for quite a while. Um, and it really wasn't until after Alone at Dawn came out, and my husband said, well, what are you going to do now? Are you going to write that book that you wanted to write? So I'm like, yeah, okay. But once I got into it, I had already interviewed a lot of his buddies from the unit, people that he went through training with, because I'd gone to a reunion down there in Florida and was able to talk to people, and I recorded them. So I was able to, remember what they said for word from what they said. And so I was able to take some of that. There were a couple who had sent letters or emails, so I was able to use those. And it was just fun to think back and remember some of the things that we did. And there were so many. And my sister just reminded me just the other day of something, and she was like, "You don't remember that?" And I'm like, "Well, remind me." And I don't think it had anything to do with John. It was between the two of us. But you forget things. But it's fun that she remembered some things that I didn't remember, or she had experiences with him that I didn't, because they were
Yeah.
at a point in time they both lived in Colorado, and while I was still in Connecticut, and it was nice to hear things from Kevin, and it's just, and maybe being able to talk about an incident where we were all together and get the perspective from everybody, and then go, yeah, that is how it happened, so some of the memories are just me remembering, and whether it's my memory has changed over the years or I'm spot on, that's how I remember it, and that's how I wrote it, so.
Hmm.
But I think it was therapeutic. It was fun for the fun stuff, you know.
And his friends, I figure it was healing for them too.
I
I
think
imagine.
so, especially like his childhood friends. There's three in particular: David Rabel, Brian Toper, and Mike Toast. And they were pretty close to John, were very close to John throughout growing up. And I think I said in the book that maybe back when it was closer to John's death, that sitting around would have been more painful, or talking about him might have been more painful. But years later, in talking with them, it was more laughter and just in awe of him. And yeah, it was lighter, and it was a way that John would have wanted it.
Y'all seem to have what I would call a traditional family growing up. You got your parents at home. Your dad worked, your mom worked at home. She was a stay-at-home mom, I think. And then you had there's four of y'all kids. You
Hmm.
were outside all the time. You mentioned the belt. I grew up with the belt. I don't know how often y'all got it, but at least it was at some point you did. How would you say John fit into y'all's family?
Oh, I always say he was the clown. He was the family. He made, bad things better and or bad things good and good things better. He was, I don't want to say the caring one. We were all caring, but he was just the funny guy. He was, and smarter than we all thought. I think I mentioned that later on. And that once I got into the combat control stuff, I joke around sometimes and say he hid his how smart he was very well, but um, he, he was very clever. So he fit in just right into that. The little mom called him her little rascal. So he fit right into that slot.
Hmm.
I was kind of the rebel, girls can do anything boys can do. And, so yeah.
Well, chapter 20. So I want to read this your mom's poem called Treasure the
Oh,
Memories.
you're gonna
I
make
just
me
want to read
cry.
the first section. I mean, this was, you say rascal. I mean, that's what stood out to me. She said, there are so many stories about this little boy. Although you were a rascal, you brought your family joy. From bikes and trees and lightning bolts and giggles in the dark, little league and soccer games and picnics in the park. And
Hmm.
there's more to it, but
Oh yeah, there's like
uh,
8 stanzas.
powerful words.
Hmm.
He was a rascal.
Oh yeah. He was mischievous. I mean, and he would get that twinkle in his bright blue eyes, and you knew something was coming, or you knew he did something.
I know just a few like instances here. Like chapter 8 is one where I made a lot of notes in your book. Like I got the physical copy because I wanted to write in it.
Hmm.
And by the way, I'm a really slow reader. Part of it is just so I can process, but part of it's also just time constraints.
Sure.
But I was able to read this very, very quickly. I think I would imagine probably, let's just say 2 weeks max, which is really fast for me. And it's got 300 pages, but it's very easy to read. It's kind of a little bit smaller. I don't know if this is a 5 by 8, but great,
Yeah, I
great size.
wasn't sure. Somebody said it was like it has a name for why it's so small. It's like I don't even know. Um,
Yeah,
so that was just me not knowing what I was doing, basically.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because it's fantastic. And I know that you don't care how many copies it sells, like money wise. You just want the story out there, and it was good for you and your family, at least, to have this record of him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping that, I don't know, even because of the movie coming out at some point, that people will say, well, okay, this is great. I read Alone at Dawn, and what he did was awesome, and he was a badass, but what was he like? Like why did he do what he did? How could he have done what he did? And and I hope that that makes people want to pick up first there. And again, not necessarily for sales, but just for more and more people to know who John was. And
Yeah.
so
Oh
that's
yeah.
important to me.
I'm with you.
I feel
100%.
like it's important to everyone who's lost someone, whether it's in the military, whether it's a car accident, skydiving accident, whatever. When you lose someone, you want people to remember him or her, and know their story, and not just know, or even someone who, I don't know, died of an overdose. That person wasn't that person the entire life. Like you want people to
Yeah.
know who they were, and not just how they died.
Well, and speaking of that, have you experienced this where, let's say you meet someone that you know or they know about John, and it's almost like you can tell they want to say something, but they don't. Maybe they're scared, so they don't
Hmm.
say anything. And if you're anything like me, I mean, I'd rather, hey, you can say, hey, even if it's, I'm sorry, hey, I was thinking about Mark the other day. I think that's important. I think people would rather hear that, hey, you know what, I was thinking of John. I miss that guy, or I'm so sorry for y'all, even if you don't know anything specific. Do you have any thoughts on that or had that kind of experience?
I've had it happen, as kind of more so that people would talk to my husband and be like, I'm really curious and I would really love to talk to her about this, but I don't want to approach her. And Kenny knows, he'll say, go ahead and talk to her. She'll ask her anything. She'll tell you. She'll sit down. Basically, I say, if you have 5 minutes or 5 hours, I can fill the time with talking about John or whatever else. um I'm from the East Coast. I'm blah 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 blah. So but I've had people do that, and then they're very kind and thankful and happy to sit down and talk with me and ask questions, and I'm forthcoming, and hopefully I make them feel comfortable to come back and ask more questions. So I've put it out there to we have Effie Warren here in Cheyenne, and if any of the airmen want to come and just pick my brain about John, or I don't care, just let me know and I'll open the door when you get here.
That's good. I think that's important for people to know that I feel like most people, I know not all, but most are very open like you to talking about even the hard things and just ask.
Hmm.
I've only met one person that where a close a sibling of this person said, "Hey, he doesn't want to talk," and it wasn't military related, but he's like he doesn't want to talk about it. So,
Hmm.
but I'm glad I asked. I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, don't even ask him because he doesn't want to talk about it." So that's the only
Sure.
person I've ever met that just didn't want to.
Yeah. Neither one of my siblings, well, Kevin more so. Kevin would talk probably because we were both in at the Air Force Academy. I forget when we were there now, and we talked about John. We were there with Mike West and
Monica.
General Davidson,
Oh,
Wilf
okay.
Davidson. Yeah. And then we were there to talk about John. So Kevin would. Tammy is very private, and so she would probably be one that would say, "Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to talk to you about him." And that's
Hmm.
okay too.
Yeah. Chapter 8 was one that I wrote down that I think I kind of read it with a smile, pretty much the whole chapter. And I know that there's a few things. I'm just going to share a few things, Lori, and then
Sure.
you can just elaborate whatever you want to. I know he gave you advice one time on eyeshadow.
Hmm.
You definitely talk about his cackle in that chapter. Y'all got in some kind of argument, and you told him, "Shut up, or I'll punch your face." And
And
then
see, my
y'all end
sister
up
reminded me about that one.
y'all ended up laughing that one off, I think.
Yep.
And something really cool too is he messages he would leave you on your answer machine that just took him and I think I don't you can tell me I think it was maybe little things like hey I love you or something love you sis but something so little but yet stuck with you for throughout the day or longer.
Yeah. And I wish I had saved them all for real, but that was back when you had video cassette tapes for your answering machines. And after a while, I'd have to, all right, I'll erase it or voice over it, whatever. But I did have one left. It meant a lot to me because I didn't get to see him a lot once he got into the Air Force, and then especially once he went combat control. So when he was able to leave a little message, it meant so much to me. Like I would listen to it over and over and over again. And the last one was he just said, "Hey, Lori, guess what? I love you." And that was it. And he hung up, and I still have it. I've re-recorded it on different things so that I never lose it.
Cool.
Um, so that's all it takes. A lot of times it's just let somebody know. I try very hard because I know how it feels to have people remember John. It doesn't even have to be on special occasions or significant dates, I should say. Like I don't call his date of death a special occasion, but I try really hard to remember others, friends, people who have lost loved ones themselves. I try really, really hard to remember their loved one at least, once a year or whenever I do think about them because it's so important and it only takes 30 seconds, but it means a lot on the other end.
Yeah. Chapter 9. This is a really powerful story about there was a girl that came to you later, I think, and told you this. I don't even know if you'd ever heard of her before. Kelly Cray Saverly, I believe.
Nope,
And
never.
wow, I mean, her dad had died. They were in high school, and she came back after she came back to school. I read you tell it. John sat beside her. He did. I think he was wise behind beyond his years. Will you explain just what he did for her?
He was totally wise beyond wise and compassionate. Even as she put it, this kid, this kid, she says, a boy, um, had the compassion. He just knew what to do. She was a freshman. I want to say he was a sophomore. So he was still young. He was probably 15.
Yeah.
She was probably 14. She had spent 2 weeks away. I guess you were allowed 2 weeks for a close relative. She went back to school and kind of walked in the front door and walked right out the back door and then sat down on a lamppost base and was crying because she's just like, I can't do this. I'm not ready. And she just didn't see John coming. All of a sudden, there was just somebody sitting next to her. And he just sat with her and let her cry. And because she was in her mind, she was thinking, "Ah, I can't deal with anybody right now." But he just sat there and let her cry. I think he may have put his hand on her arm or something and just said, I'm John, and how can I help you? And then, he stayed with her, ended up bringing her he said, what did he say? He offered to walk her home because she just said, I can't do this, which was across town from the high school, and which is not that far away in Windsor Locks, but he offered to walk her home and she was all concerned that, well, you would miss class. And he just laughed at her. Like, she's like, I think he laughed at me. Like, I don't care, you know? And ultimately he ended up walking her to the nurse's office and stayed with her until she was, okay to just be there with the nurse. And they called her mom. But um, that was who John was. And everybody else would have walked right on by her, either, too uncomfortable, not knowing what to do for a crying young girl or,
Yeah.
laughing or whatever. But John always knew, he just seemed to know in his compassionate heart, like how to handle stuff like that.
And I think in those that were maybe brave enough to even try to comfort her, they probably would have talked and tried
Right.
to talk sense into her or something. He sat there and
Hmm.
just was with her. And
Right. Gave
that
her the
blew me
space.
away.
Yeah. That blew me away when she shared that at the memorial service there in Windsor Locks. And she sent me a letter like years later that just she's like it still affects her. She
Hmm.
still remembers how that one, I don't know how long it was, maybe half an hour, I don't know how long it was, but that one incident really really affected her life. So,
Yeah, man. He was like an angel sitting beside her. That's what she needed.
hmm,
And you know what? I don't know if we all know how it all works, but maybe her dad was able to send John as a to comfort his daughter. I
yeah,
don't know.
I would believe in that too. He knew she needed someone, and there was that boy with the open
Yeah.
heart.
Another chapter, John was talking to a friend, and the friend was asking him what he did, and John told him he was a chef. He didn't need any accolades, and at this point, he was a combat controller. He might have been with the 2-4 at that time. I don't know which is which
I'm not
is.
sure. I think he may have been with the 2-4 by then. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what year that
Mhm.
was because Kevin shared that one. So I'm not sure the year, but yeah, regardless, John didn't need the accolades. He had never been like that, needing the pat on the back and having to shout from the rooftop on, I'm a combat controller. Not that anyone would know what that is anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but he was truly one of the silent professionals or the quiet professionals, unlike certain other people. But yeah, that's just how he rolled. He's like, I know
Hmm.
what I am capable of. I know what I can do. I don't need to tell anyone else about it. And it's kind of like like I said, that's how he lived his life. He was a diver in high school, very good diver. I think his junior and senior years, he was number one in his class, the class. when he got to combat control, he didn't tell anyone that he was a diver. He didn't even, I don't even know if most of them even knew he had been on the diving team. Some of them may have known he had, but they didn't know how good he had been because he didn't brag. He didn't say, "Yeah, I was number one." So there were two instances with the dives that kind of left people with their jaws dropped down to the floor, like, "Holy crap, did Chappie just do that?" Um, one of them was I don't know how high it is. Maybe it's a 3-meter board that they train off of jumping down in full
The
gear,
ones
or
that bend?
I don't know if they bend. I think it was a platform.
Okay. So probably yeah, could be a
Probably
5 meter
higher.
or
Could
10
have been
meter.
higher. Yeah, but they were all had to jump off, and I don't think they were in full gear, but they, had their uniforms on or something. And
Oh, this is okay. This is in the pipeline.
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotcha.
sorry.
Okay.
I think it was after. I think they were actually not in the pipeline anymore, but I'm not positive about that one. But, they're all like, "Okay, get up there and jump off and do what you're supposed to do." And or it was the end. They were all done. And John was all still up there. I don't know the whole thing, but he had to jump off, and he didn't just jump off feet first. He did a dive off of it, and people were just like, "What the heck? Like, really, dude?" Like, you know. The other one I like better was, I think I put it in the book about, he definitely was with other CCT and PJs on taking a ship, overcoming, or at least getting on a ship unnoticed or whatever, and they were practicing. So I kind of looked online, like, how high is the bow of a ship? And depending on whether it's full or not, and depending the style of the ship, it could be anywhere from 40 to 80 feet off the water. It was at night. So they were all able to go on and do what they had to do. And then the instructor said, "Okay, everybody off the bow." And while some of them were sitting there going, "Did we just hear him correctly? We have to jump off the bow in the dark." Like, so they were all like kind of hesitating, like, who's gonna go first? And so John gets up there on the bow and does a full gainer off into the dark. And they
Were
were all
they, was
just,
this in the ocean?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I don't know if it was moored. I don't know if they were in a harbor or if they were out in the ocean, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, he just did a full gainer just off the come what may, here we go. And that left them all like, "Holy shit, dude." And I think that's when everybody knew. He didn't brag, he just did it.
Hey, the water portion of the training is that, I mean, what I think I took out of Mark's book because the Air Force asked me to
Hmm.
was Mark thought he was going to die every day. This was in combat in dive school.
Hmm.
And they asked me to remove that. I think I did remove that part, but John definitely was able to, that was a strength of his.
Yeah, we grew up on the swim team, and then he was, like I said, a diver in high school. So, and I mean, we were always going to lakes and skiing, and just, he was very comfortable in the water. My grandparents had a pool,
Hmm.
we would try to see how many lengths we could do underwater without, coming up for
Yeah.
air and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So he was very comfortable in the water.
Well, one of the funniest chapters, like I say, chapter 8, I read with a smile, but
Hmm.
chapter 17, I laughed and laughed. Will you tell some of the
I'm not
stories about
sure
he
which
had?
one that is.
Well, he was talking about this is the Xerox machine, and he's like, this is
Oh,
how you make a copy of your butt, and this is how you send it. I don't remember if it was as a fax or what, but you send it to, if it's a person you don't like, this is what you do, and if it's a person you like, this is what you do. You want to elaborate on that? Because he ended up breaking the copy machine.
it was a brand spanking new copy machine. So this story was shared with me by Sama Stella. Sama was the first troop that John was assigned to train, or, show the ropes. So, and they only had, I think Sama said, only maybe like 6 months together all total, but they just had a really good relationship. And there was at one point in time, John and Sama went into one of the offices, and the guy in charge of the office said, "Hey, I gotta go do this. I have to bring this somewhere. So just hold down the fort." And John just told Sama, like, "Okay, you stay in the front there. You just stay there and shut up." And he went in the back room because he had noticed that, I mean, it was still in the box. And he opened it up, And back, it was like, what did he say? It was like one of these high speed things. I don't know what he said. It was brand new where you could just sit there and it scanned whatever was on top of it instead of the whole thing moving like it used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So John was like, and he said, and Sama said he could hear John like giggling, like, this is gonna be great. And he's like, what's going on in there? Never mind, get back in there, shut up, you don't see anything. And the next thing he hears is, boom. And he turns and looks and he says John's eyes were like this big, like, oh shit. And he wrapped it all back up and said, we're out of here, let's go. Off they went. Because he liked to, for whatever reason, John liked to photocopy his ass. And as Summer said, depending on if he liked you, you would get a photocopy of his butt as a joke, haha, now you get to see my ass, or kiss my ass to someone he doesn't like. And Sama told me that he was actually writing down the standard operating procedures on how to do this. And I wish that I had that. Like, I wish that he had written it down and shared it or something. I've never seen it. So, but Sama said, yeah, he was actually writing this stuff down because he was that serious about how and when to photocopy your butt. I told you he was mischievous.
Yeah, he packed it up. I mean, styrofoam and everything back in the box, tape it up, and
Mhm.
then somebody found out, hey, wow, this thing, they shipped damaged in shipping or something, right?
Something. Well, I mean, come on, they had to have seen. Maybe he unpacked it so carefully that you couldn't tell that it had been ripped open or something. But oh man, just I wish I could see the look on the faces of the people who actually opened it and went, "What the heck is this?" It's, hopefully there wasn't some butt print on the glass.
It probably was.
Oh, yep, that was John.
Well, one thing you did, Lori, that I like, and I think it's important, and I think I think everybody would appreciate this, is you were real in the book, and you were honest, and you also shared, hey, John wasn't perfect at what he did. He got in trouble. He got written up. You talk about in the pipeline, he was chastised during a swim, and also there was some type of security violation. So, was that something that you intentionally wanted to do? Is make sure you cover it all, or did it just kind of come naturally as you were researching?
It was intentional because and I was talking to my brother, Kevin, about it too. Like, I asked him, "Do you remember a time when John failed at anything?" And he was like, "It didn't." He's like, "No. If there was something that he wanted to accomplish or do or whatever, he did it. Sometimes it was instant, and then other times it took him a while to get to it, but he didn't fail." And Kevin supported my, like, this is what I was remembering, and Kevin said, yeah, that's right. And so I wanted to make sure I didn't want to portray John as this angel that everything came easily to, and he was just the greatest person in the world because he never had any failures or periods of I'm not so sure I can do this. So I wanted to show that, like, he wasn't really confident in many phases of the pipeline. Especially I could tell that through his letters to me. But he would tell me his concerns, and then at the end he would say, "But I'm not giving up," because that's how he was. I am not giving up. So that's why I wanted to share he left his watch, and that was a security violation, and it kind of surprised me actually when he got chastised or written up for the swimming part because he did like the water. So that tells me it was really hard for him to have gotten written up on something. So I wanted to show that he struggled too. He wasn't Superman. He was human, made mistakes, struggled, but kept going through it and until he got the result that he wanted. And I just wanted to show people that sometimes that's just what you have to do. You have to grit through it.
Yeah. Well, one thing that hit me, Laura, I can't believe I forgot to do this, but when you told me the other day, you said you were reading my book and how you were amazed at the similarities. It just kind of hit me. I was like, I haven't written a review on First There yet. Anyway, so I did that. And I say that because I honestly loved this book. And I like reading books. If I'm having somebody on my podcast that has a book, I want to read the book before I have them on instead of acting like I read it or
Hmm.
something. But this is a book I would have read whether you were I was going to get to talk to you or not. And it is, I think it's very, very well done. It's funny, it's sad, it really hits all kinds of emotions. So I think that's why I think so many people will like it and appreciate it. And it's true too. This is
Right.
a real story.
Yeah, thank you. There was one thing that I read about in your book that your mom had a recurring dream about Mark passing. And my mom had the same thing. She would have this recurring dream that he passed away, and then after he died, she never had it again. And so when
Wow.
I read that your mom had that, dreamt it, it just
I'm
struck me that
I'm
there,
gonna
I
go
mean,
read
there
that again.
so many. You're gonna read that on your book?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just sat there crying like, holy crap, that's what happened to mom. And I'm so any of your listeners out there, just because you have a dream about, someone close to you passing doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that's just a similarity between your mom and my mom. That and yeah, when and one thing that happened, that when she got the knock at the door, Nick had already gone to bed, I think. And she was in the kitchen. I don't know if I had that in the book or not. She was in the kitchen making she was pulling chicken apart. She had boiled a chicken carcass, so she could make chicken soup. So she was pulling the carcass apart when she got the knock at the door. And I guess Nick answered it, or he must have come out. I know she answered, but when she started screaming, he got up. But she wasn't able to make chicken soup for years, and it was only fairly recently in the last several years that she's been able to do it again. I don't know what made me think of that.
Wow.
But there's like, we were talking about why do people do what they do, or in
Mm-hmm.
times of, she just equated making soup with the worst day of her life and she just couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed reading about Mark, and how he stood up for people, and it didn't matter if he was going to get injured for it or whatever, he was going to do the right thing, and that's how John was. And that's why I say, when I read about Mark, I mean, I could insert John's name in there, and I'll be like, hey, geez, he knows John too. So it was nice.
Did you ever have people telling you after John was killed, maybe this is you or anybody else in your family, somebody say, "Hey, I had this dream." And I guess I'll tell you what happened with me and just see if this is something similar. We had several people say, "Hey, I dreamed about Mark," or "I dreamed about this or that." And I was a little bit frustrated. It's like, "Well, I'm not getting a dream." And my mom was really frustrated because she wasn't getting anything. Did this happen to you or your family that you know of?
Yeah, I think my mom got frustrated. I don't know if my dad really thought about it in those terms, but my mom got a little frustrated because she wasn't, you know, seeing him in her dreams or whatever. I had a very, very vivid dream. He died in March. I think it was October of that year. And all between March and October, I had nothing. And and my sister was talking about how her oldest daughter was having dreams about John, and I'm like, oh, why I want to. And so October, I had a very, very vivid dream about him. And then even since then, it's just very, very sporadic. So when I hear people, oh, so and so visits me all the time, or I dream about him all the time, and I'm like, but that's just how it is. And yeah, but I know mom and I were both pretty. I don't know about Tammy, because I think she had some dreams about him, but those are her memories. I don't know. You just want to feel like you still have some kind of connection, or for us on Earth, you just want to know, hey, I'm okay, or I don't know. The human brain is a little stupid sometimes, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did you ever have, I mean,
I did, yeah, but it took
yeah.
a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
you have all these thoughts of, well, why am I not ready? Is that it? I mean,
Right.
if we believe in life after death. We believe Mark's alive. He's well, but why would he not want to? Why would he not
Sure.
want to visit us?
Yeah.
And then
I
is it
just feel
me?
like
Yeah.
we
So
have to go through whatever we're supposed to go through before we're given that gift, I guess.
apparently, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is weird. It's confusing and hard to explain. I guess even no matter how strong maybe your faith is, it's just it's hard to understand. I think, or it was for me and my
Because we're
mom at
human.
least.
Because we're human. There are things that we don't understand and we want answers and we might not get the answers. We might not ever get the answers, or we get them in God's time, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thanks for listening to part one of my interview with Lori. In part two, we dig into John's final heroic hours on Takur Ghar. The chaotic fight, the long delay in recognizing his actions with the Medal of Honor amid heavy pushback from the Navy and SEAL community, and Lori's interactions with team leader Britt Slabinski, himself a Medal of Honor recipient for Takur Ghar. Slabinski's account, including his claim that he checked John and believed him to be dead before leaving the mountain, has widely been questioned and seemingly proven wrong because we know John wasn't dead. He recovered, fought alone against overwhelming odds, one man versus 24 enemy combatants, for more than 40 minutes and saved the Quick Reaction Force. Actions many believe would have earned him a second Medal of Honor. But don't take my word for it. Watch the stark, heartbreaking CIA Predator drone footage, narrated by Dan Schilling, that captures these moments. How would you cope seeing your brother fighting for his life on camera, and then watching others challenge and delay recognition for what he did? Tune in for the full emotional account coming in part two.